Hello, my name is Robin Fowler, and this is my interpersonal communication plan for HSCO 508 at Liberty University. Today's date is May 1st, 2022. This plan will have several points. I will define what interpersonal communication is. I will discuss my particular behavioral blend with strengths and growth areas. I will discuss my identity, both my self-identity and my social identity. Barriers to communication for me personally. I have an overarching goal for my interpersonal communication plan, and I will discuss the strategies and implementation of this plan, and then I will conclude this presentation. Schultz and Basinski define interpersonal communication as living in responsibly within relationships. There are two main components of communication. Peterson, in his book, Why Don't We Listen Better, defines talking as communicating our thoughts and feelings. Schultz and Basinski define listening as attending to reality as it really is. There are several things that affect interpersonal communication. In this class, we talked about our behavior blend using the Uniquely You assessment by Carbonell. I also have taken the Golden Personality Assessment by Golden. And Schultz and Basinski define us having a social identity and a self-identity. Carbonell says that our social identity is the way that people see us. And in that, my behavioral blend is an influencing specialist. But there's also our self-identity, and this is the way we really are, as Carbonell says. And in that, my behavioral blend is a competent influencing specialist. This behavioral blend has several strengths. I build relationships easily. I'm sensitive to other people's emotions, and I'm very enthusiastic. There are also some growth areas for this behavioral blend for me personally. I need to learn to be firm and more self-disciplined. I need to attend to my personal needs, and I need to guard against judgment with people. Another thing that influences our background is our social and our self-identity. So my social identity, I consider this the roles that I play. I'm a pastor's wife and daughter. I'm a student. I'm a homeschool mom, and I'm a children's director. But my self-identity, the way I really am, which does not change no matter what role I'm playing, I'm a Christian, I am female, I'm a wife, and I'm an ama to my boys and my grandson. These background items do affect how I communicate. I was raised in a pastor's home and I married a pastor. I grew up in a fishbowl. I learned to be a people pleaser. And because I'm an influencing specialist in my public identity, I want to influence people. I want them to like me. Because I am an ama to my boys and my grandson, I want to influence them in positive ways. As a believer, and I'm learning as I mature, that I have to learn to be vulnerable and transparent with people. Currently, though, I'm learning that I need to balance that authenticity, which is necessary as believers, with appropriate self-disclosure. Not everybody needs to know every part of my story, and I'm still being truthful if I don't share every part of my story. I can still be authentic in that. There are several communication barriers, but the two that I find most pressing that I want to address are the let me fix it for you barrier and screens. Obviously, I love technology. I have a tab, I have a computer, I have a phone. Technology can be a wonderful enhancement to communication, but I know in my own life, and I've seen it others, it can be a way that we escape and we avoid communication, and it can be a barrier to communication. So I want to address that. The second one, the let me fix it for you, is I do lean into that competent side, and I want to tell you what to do. So in that, I want to address this in my interpersonal communication plan. My overarching goal for interpersonal communication is to mentor parents through transformational leadership using attentive listening and encouragement. I have 4 strategies that I will use. 2 of them will address attentive listening and 2 will address encouragement. The 4 strategies are to attend to my spiritual life and to practice gratitude. By doing both of these things, I will lean into being an encourager to parents. To practice attentive listening, I want to implement 2 strategies. I want to learn to sit in silence, and I want to practice humility. In the implementation of these, when I'm attending to my spiritual life, I want to remember Schultz and Basinski's quote, "When our hearts are rightly engaged, we approach all communicative actions responsibly, watching out for God's will and our neighbor's interest." I want to prioritize time with God first. And then I want to, for accountability, I want to set timers for all of my screen usage. That way that I can be sure that I am attending to the things that I need to attend to in the order that I need to do them. To practice gratitude, I want to remember what Schultz and Basinski say, that we can only view people one of three ways: with displeasure, indifference, or gratitude. To be accountable for this, I want to keep a daily gratitude journal. And in this, I don't want to just list things that I'm grateful for, but I want to list the people in my life and why I am grateful for them. I want to remember that ingratitude affects my ability to be faithful to God. That when I am ungrateful for things or people, then I neglect God's blessings in my life. To practice attentive listening and to reach the goal of attentive listening, I want to implement the two strategies of sitting in silence and practicing humility. When I talk about sitting in silence, Profess, in his journal article, discussed as a therapist when he had a client come in and the client was noticeably upset, and as he tried to communicate with the client, he came to the realization that the client did not need to use words, and actually the client would not speak. And what Profess found was that as therapists and counselors and human service workers, we do use words, we talk, but that's not the only way we can communicate. France and Weichel remind us that we need to be empathetic to our clients, and if we are going to truly hear them, sometimes we need to sit in the silence and not hear their feelings, but feel their feelings. Profess found as he did this and sitting in that silence, he actually was able to communicate empathy with his client, and his client responded to that. So I want to practice sitting in silence. I want to practice feeling my friends, my coworkers, my clients' feelings and accepting that. And I want to practice waiting for someone else to speak, to not feel the silence myself. In practicing humility, Naranyan and Faro, in their leadership article, discussed that leaders are finding that they are having better results when they draw someone out by asking questions rather than telling them what to do. France and Weichel remind us that successful therapeutic care involves encouraging clients to make their own decisions. I need to practice asking, not telling. And when I do that, I can build relationship of trust with my clients. I also need to recognize when I don't understand what my friends, clients, and family are communicating with me. And then I need to ask compelling questions to gain clarity. When I do all of these things, I will be meeting my goal of influencing parents through transformational leadership. And in conclusion, I want to remember Schultz and Basinski's quote, "When our hearts are rightly engaged, we approach all communicative actions responsibly, watching out for God's will and our neighbor's interest." And I want to anchor all of this on the verse out of Colossians 4:6, the New Living Translation. I want to let my conversation be gracious and attractive so that I will have the right response for everyone. Thank you for your time.